combat, and it wasn't sharp. So while it looks like this really cool dagger knife, it didn't work very well. Not in life or death situations. But as long as Raphael has his attitude, he'll be fine. But we have more weapons from the Ninja Turtles. The nunchaku, also known as nunchucks. Alternately known as the YouTube weapon of infamy. Because everybody has seen these weapons on YouTube, almost always wielded by a teenage boy, with a friend with a camera. And inevitably he's going to hit himself in one of three places. Location number one is smacking himself in the head. This was originally a farm tool. It was a flail. They used it to separate chaff from wheat. Wheat was also a huge agricultural product for them. And part of wheat is ridiculously good for making soba noodles. You can see that. You can also make bread with it, but I'm not a big fan of wheat bread. But what you do is you take the cut down product and you smack it with, this one has a chain with little ball bearing swivels because I got the really cool, faster martial arts version. But on the farm, you took two sticks and you tied them together with a short piece of rope or leather, so you could make one end go a lot faster. It had momentum than just taking a stick and going like that. And so you would hit the wheat and it would separate the good stuff that you could cook with that had nutritional value from what they call the chaff. That's the stuff that just blows away if you put it on the big blanket and up in the air. Okay, so it was used for farming stuff. And obviously, if somebody came to mess with you, since this end is going fast, you can whack them with it. And by fast, in the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing, the end of this weapon can get moving in excess of 140 miles an hour. Now, by comparison, a good middleweight boxer can put that jab out and bring it back at about 52 miles an hour. So if you train with this weapon, sometimes your instructor will take silver tape and put a band around the end of the nunchaku. It's called retina retention tape. And the reason why they do it is because it's shiny. It makes it easier for your eyes to track the movement on it. So if you're doing, not contact sparring, because getting smacked with one of these is bad for you, but just little, if you can learn to track the end of this while it's moving and react to it, then if I'm going to go, wah, to her, that's like the Matrix. Because it's coming in slow motion, because it's basically a third of the speed. So you could hit somebody with this. And that's why they keep it under tension, because it gives you an explosive, that first movement is just kind of wham! Instead of, wait, I'm ready now, come get me. So if they keep one end under tension, they can strike with it right away. Now the downside to this is, for all that it looks like this killer weapon, and does anybody remember Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee? Yeah. Oh yeah, there's that scene in the caves where he's fighting with these ridiculously lightweight nunchaku, and it's Bruce Lee, so he's going, ah! And these little Chinese guys are going flying, 120-pound guys are going flying 10 feet across the room, hitting the wall and then sliding to the floor, while he's going, wah, wah, yeah! And I'm like, that's not how it works. They don't work that well. And I can prove it. Remember our YouTube Weapon of Infamy videos? The first place some guy hits himself is when you release the top one and bring it up, they smack themselves in the head. And this is where you know it's their best friend who's recording, because they don't stop recording. When the guy hits himself in the head and drops to the ground, he's going, oh, dude, they're still recording, but now it's shaking because the guy's laughing so hard he can't keep the camera still. And if this were really I'm going to kill you, this is the ultimate weapon of doom, smacking yourself in the head where you're totally unprepared should at least knock you out. But it doesn't. And you know that because you can hear every four-letter word that kid's saying while he's on the ground, holding his head, and now you're wishing that he was knocked out. But that's position number one. You let go with the top, because from right here, you don't know whether I'm going to hit you over the top or from underneath. And you know the best part of these are like 12 years old, and at some point that little metal rim that holds all this in place is going to come open. And when that happens, the end of that's just going to go flying out. I shouldn't say that because now it'll happen. It happened in my school once when I was training. My instructor used to, when we do push-up drills and then run and sit-ups, and he'd walk around us practicing with the ballet song, the butterfly knives, doing aerial openings. And with these, walking around doing hand changes and stuff while we're doing push-ups. And every once in a while you'd hear him say, shoot! And weapon would go flying and one of us would get hit. And we never knew whether we were supposed to show overall awareness and move, or discipline and follow your instructor and stay there and get hit. Whichever one I chose was always the wrong one. But you keep it under tension so you can strike right away. Number one, you let go with the top hand so you can hit them under the chin, but that's where you hit yourself in the head. If you're swinging them and spinning them around and doing a hand coming underneath to catch it, notice how I flare my elbow out where it comes out high, and then you trap it. If you don't do that and you bring the weapon this way, that's injury number 2. End of the weapon moving 140 miles an hour and it hits right there. And as soon as it happens, you realize this is misnamed. There's nothing funny about that bone because it hurts. And if you've ever done that, you realize what happens first when you hit yourself with a stick right in the funny bone is your entire forearm goes numb, including your fingers. So what you've just done is created a projectile weapon because that happens a lot. But that one's still not that funny. You go, ah, and the weapon falls and you're going, oh, dude, that was unpleasant. Beyond the snickering just because you don't like the guy, it's not really that cool. Injury number 3 is the one everybody went to immediately.
Yeah. And
that's the guy who hits himself in the groin. And the reason why they do the wrapping it around is when you're trying to hit somebody with it, having the weapon out here limp doesn't do you any good. This is no longer Cards Against Humanity. This is Sunday. We should all be religious.
Amen.
You keep it, you want the weapon where you can bring it back and get it under tension again so you can strike hard. And if you strike out and down, you don't want to leave it. So what you do is you use your own body to help recoil the weapon. And so when you see guys wrapping this around their leg, what they're doing is they're bringing the weapon back up into position. Down, back up, down, and back up. And I want you to see this. My foot is actually pointed straight down the middle of this row, and so is my knee. When I bring this down and recoil, do you see what I'm doing with my knee? See how it turns out as well? The reason for that is this is a flexible weapon, and what I want to do is induce a small angle change from striking out and down to around, but it's a small angle change, so it wraps around my thigh and not something more important. And if you don't turn your knee out, in order to get the weapon to come around, your elbow has to flare a little bit more than you want it to, so it comes out, and since it's flexible, it's on a chain or a rope, this doesn't do small angle chain. When you flare your elbow out, this end goes opposite of your elbow, so when that flares wide, the other end of the stick comes around. And that's the video that everybody remembers. It's the kid going, wow! And racking himself and dropping to the floor and swearing and screaming and friends laughing. Okay, so when you do this, turn your knee out, keep the elbow tucked, small angle change, and around. And now that you've seen how it's done properly, if you go home and practice and rack yourself anyway, we're going to consider that natural selection of work. Darwinism, survival of the fittest, as in it's probably best you don't reproduce with this anyway. Another question?
How plausible is it to defend yourself with that against someone?
As far as a self-defense weapon, the nunchaku were way more effective than people give them credit for, but in a different way than we think they were. Because when you watch the ninja movies or Enter the Dragon, it's always just about hitting people. Whack! Hit them in the head and they go, and you already know from watching these kids hit themselves and not get broken and killed and their heads pop off like giant watermelons. Actually, that was in a ninja movie I watched. Bam! And it was awesome. They really weren't that effective for that. But these are illegal in the state of Texas for law enforcement. Think about that for a minute. Texas. You can get a carry permit for a bazooka in Texas.
What?
But you can't use these. And I'm only exaggerating a little bit. There is an RPG that, now I realize